Hi everyone, I'm Claire. I work as a film director in Singapore and in Malaysia. Yeah. Um, hmm. I think what sparked my interest was in SOTA we had this thing called media education, and that was something that we were all forced to do lah. And then I guess after doing it for a while, I realized like, hey, actually, like film is pretty interesting because you get to collaborate with so many different art forms. Whereas I came from music, and music was sometimes a very solitary art form, and so I kind of really like the process of filmmaking more so than watching films myself. Like I was never really like a film person, or I didn't watch a lot of movies. The only thing I did was like watch a lot of horror films with my mom. So yeah, I think it was really because I saw how collaborative the entire filmmaking process was that got me into wanting to make films in the first place. Yeah, I guess so. I mean, all along, ever since I started making films, it's never been like a singular process. I think it's always been like I would always try and get the people that would be the best fit for the project. It doesn't have to be that, they had prior film experience. As long as I feel like they're an artist in their own right, then I would bring them onto the project just to get them to collaborate with me and see what comes out of it. Sorry, I'm drinking my coffee while we're talking. Okay, is that okay?
Yeah, that's okay.
I think it's kind of hard to say because I think as a director, you have a lot of burdens on you. Like on one hand, you're like, okay, everyone's looking to me for the creative vision. On the other hand, it's like people think that you're a snob sometimes. It's like, yeah, he or she's a director, da 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 da. So there's a lot of like stress on you, like mentally, to present yourself in a certain way. I don't like that part, but I think what I like is that I have the power to say, oh, I want to bring this person on, I want to bring that person on. For me, the most enjoyable part will be bringing the right people into the project. Because once you bring the right people in, people that trust you, that work for you, then you're pretty much set. You don't have to worry too much. It's only when you choose the wrong people, and that's when like it gets really. It's not a very happy process. I feel. Not particularly, but I can say like okay. Every time I do interviews, they would ask the same question: How do you feel being a female director in Singapore? And I'm like, well, actually, honestly, it there's no difference. Like, I never felt like because I'm female, because I'm young and I'm Asian, or I'm Chinese, like that made any difference at all in the industry. Like, no one cares. So I think that's a really like it's a question that is asked. I understand why it's being asked, but it's also kind of like personally, there's no reason to ask that question because people think that the film industry is very male dominated, but that's not true at all. Like there's so many female directors now. There's so many camera assistants who are female. All the boom operators are female. Almost half or more than half of the production people are female. So it's very odd to me that people keep asking that question. I think it's kind of an outdated concept. I think it depends on what you're looking at. Like when you look at commercial work, for example, Ross Lee from Free Flow, he's an amazing director. Like he's very fast, very sharp. When I used to work as an assistant director, so like I used to work as a first assistant and second assistant director, I got to work with him quite a few times, and just seeing how he works on set, his charisma, the way he like commands his team is amazing. And then you look at people like Martin Hong. I really like Martin Hong's stuff. I worked with him like once or twice. It's really got character. I think sometimes when you become a commercial director, when you do commercial work, it's very scary to fall into like people only call you for one kind of style. Martin has a style and it's a very distinctive style that screams Martin, but I think he has quite a wide range of like abilities and you can see that in his work and that's quite special. A lot of film directors here don't really have that. I'm not gonna name names, but they don't really have that. And then when it comes to narrative work, definitely I do think that Kristen Tan is pretty amazing. Kristen's work definitely stands out for me narratively. Raja Gopal, because Raja was actually my mentor in another project. So it's kind of weird that we are like both on like judging for this now. So I was in this 2020 project for Temasek, and he was my mentor. Yeah, so definitely I love Raja's work. I love the way he thinks, the way he works. Kind of hard to answer this question. Okay, so when COVID came about, like all the jobs got halted. or they just like completely went away. And then once COVID kind of subsided in Singapore, jobs came back because it was like a backlog of jobs. So I feel like right now it's a mixture of both like backlog and new jobs, but a bit more backlog. So it's quite worrying. Like, also doesn't mean that next year there'll be lesser jobs because everyone's trying to save money, even the government's trying to save money right here, right? And a lot of our like commercial jobs comes from the government. That's where the big money is at. A lot of small jobs don't have a lot of money. So you think about the freelance industry, like it's a bit scary, like where it's heading to right now. I'm not sure how everyone else feels about it because I'm not really like I haven't really discussed this with a lot of people, but it's just from what I observe. But creatively, it feels like a good break for everyone, even for myself, because you keep working and working and working. No one tells you you need to take a break, but this forces you to take a break. And I think it's good for us creatively because I actually took a long break. I got to rethink everything that I wanted to do with my life. And so it was good for me personally. I think for a lot of my friends as well. That was a relief to be able to have a break like that. Well, I think for me the most important thing is that you cannot be in any situation. No matter how bad the situation is, you cannot be in it. Because that's gonna come and bite you back. I learned that the hard way. I can be quite on set, I think, when I was younger, but then now, like, as you get older, your anger management gets better. Although my boyfriend still says I have pretty bad anger management issues. But because the industry here is also so small, right? Like, a little goes a long way. I mean, for example, when people ask you for recommendations, just give, just do anything you can do to help them because next time if they succeed, you benefit because they're gonna like help you again, right? Whereas like if you say something wrong about someone here and they spread the word about you, then you're oops, sorry. You can censor that out. Just be nice. I think also if you work as a director, there's always this like it's very easy to fall into the oh yeah, this director has his quirks or her quirks, this person's like this person's like that, very hard to work with, creative vision, da 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 da. It's very easy to put the director in a position where they're a snob or they're away from all the other cast and crew. And it's simple things, like for example, if you go on set, are you gonna, as a director, are you gonna request for like Starbucks coffee or are you gonna drink coffee from the kopitiam like the rest of the crew? It's also simple things like, are you gonna ask for salad for lunch or are you gonna eat everything else that the crew eats? Yeah, it's like things like that that really, really matters. Wow, I'm still an aspiring director, man. I think like there's really no one track to like get to where you are. Like for me, after I graduated from SOTA, I actually wanted to go to CalArts and I got in for experimental filmmaking. But then I was like, I'm not gonna pay like $500,000 to go there, even though I got a partial scholarship. So I was like, you know what? That I'm gonna study in Singapore. I'm not gonna go to school per se. I'm gonna pay for my paper and I'm gonna work outside. So that's what I did. So I went to Lasalle, but I didn't actually go to a lot of classes, and then I just like kept hustling outside, and I just kept working. I started freelancing, and that kind of brought me up a bit more. And the big break I got was when I decided that I wanted to go to Malaysia to eat good food because Singapore food not as good as Malaysia, honestly, I have to say. And so I just like bought a ticket. I went there. Then I decided to like cold email some companies. Like I spoke to a few companies, and one of the companies was Think Tank. Directors Think Tank, which is the company that I'm signed to now, and they're like, "Hey, come to our office, let's have a chat." And I was like, "Okay." I mean, I didn't expect anything out of it, but they're like, "You want to sign to us?" I'm like, "What?" Which is kind of weird because I never expected that. I always thought I would be freelancing, and then yeah, then here I am, working for Think Tank, and it's a big step up for me. So you cannot really say there's like a one track or like any director needs to look up to any other director. Just do your thing, man. Like when you do your thing, people will notice you and they want you, they want you. If you're not interesting enough, then too bad for you. Then you gotta try harder on your own, I guess. For me, like places is something that speaks the most to me, and I think because a lot of my films it starts with places. So I think once like the location is interesting, the setting is interesting, that immediately sparks my interest. The people react in the space. So the space is so important. So I think when I was like looking at all the films, it was probably that how do the people exist in their environment, and it has to be real. Like I think the problem with Singaporean films is also that it's always the same spaces. We always see the same spaces, but that's because we are Singaporeans making films about Singapore. It's natural that it looks like that or it's in that space. But I think the question moving forward is like, how do you change that space to make it more interesting? Otherwise, you're just regurgitating like the same ideas over and over again. I think no one has really truly challenged that at the moment, which is unfortunate. Thank you.